Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to Cloud Test Lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Once you have executed with respect to run configurations, the data was already available with respect to the program. You can just directly go and execute the file. If you want to change, again, you need to follow the same approach. So currently you can see that num value is 20, num2 value is 0, and when you are trying to perform the division operation, you have received one more exception. And just now only we have seen how to handle the exceptions with respect to try catch block. So what you can do is you can put the whole code. So currently this statement and this statement both might throw an exception. So I'm trying to put them in try block, and then I'm writing the superclass exception handler. This is out exception occurred plus E. As you can see, I'm handling only one exception here. I have only one exception handler, which is at the top level, which is superclass level. Superclass refers to subclass object, which we have discussed in last classes, and I have specified about catching the exception also with respect to superclass. So it can handle both arithmetic exception and index out of bound exception. You can also place runtime exception. It will also handle both arithmetic and index out of bound. Now go and execute the file with parameters first. You can see that exception occurred, and the exception message is arithmetic exception and divide by 0. By looking at this particular message, by printing the exception object, it is not printing the actual memory reference from the JVM. It is printing the exception object along with exception message. So if in case you don't know what kind of exception that your code will throw, first of all, you are supposed to verify with respect to exception object. And if you are interested to handle individually, now you have the object, exception object, that will be going to rise by your code. And you can just take this exception object and you can handle them individually. This is how you need to find the exception. And another way is you already know what kind of code that you are writing, and you should be capable of knowing what kind of exception message that it will be going to throw. So business logic related exceptions, it will come only once you have entered into the code and once you have verified the code related lines. Now, the second option is, let me remove the program arguments. Now I'm not sending the program arguments and I'm executing the file without programming arguments. So this time the exception object is java.lang.array index out of bound exception. So the exception E, which is a superclass reference, is capable of handling both the exceptions. If you want to handle both the exceptions separately, you can make use of multiple catch block statement The syntax for that is try consists of different statements and then catch exception object 1, handler statements, catch exception object 2, handler. Handler code, you can just write anything. Oh yeah, once after raising the exception, if you have the handler, see currently you can see that you have the handler and the exception has got here, and immediately it has started executing the next line, main operation completed. That is the whole purpose of handling the exception. Instead of terminating your program, you can still continue working on the rest of the lines. Is that clear, Adil? Okay. Now, here you just need to specify the try catch block. As usual, you are doing whatever. Previously also we are following the same approach. You can associate the next catch block also immediately after the first catch block. So place one more catch block like this immediately after your first catch block. You shouldn't write any other statements in between these two catch blocks. And the catch block, it was supposed to follow the same structure, whatever that you are following until now. There won't be any difference in terms of structure. So if at all, if you know that this method will be going to throw two exceptions, the first one is array index out of bound. You can directly handle the array index out of bound, and in the same way, you already know that this method will also throw arithmetic exception. See, currently I'm handling only two exceptions. There is no restriction. You can handle any number of exceptions by putting number of catch handlers. Arithmetic exception raised. Plus AE. So array index out of bound exception occurred, and you can see the message. And the next thing is, let us go and execute with respect to arguments. Run as, run configurations, go to arguments, 20, run. This time, arithmetic exception has raised, and it has verified that this is not the matching catch handler, and there is a matching catch handler available at the second level, and it was able to resolve exception object, and it has executed the code inside of this. And here we have mentioned that we can write any number of catch handlers, but there is one restriction here. Whenever you are writing multiple catch handlers, the subclass object catch handler should come first. In the sense, let us say you are handling both the exceptions, arithmetic exception and exception. You can handle, no issues. You are writing arithmetic exception object and then exception. So you know that you'll be going to get arithmetic exception for sure, and you don't know about the remaining exceptions. In that case, you can just catch arithmetic exception first and then exception object as second catch handler. You shouldn't place exception as first catch handler. The reason for that is whenever, let us change the code and verify it one more time. Let us say you are handling array index out of bound, and then arithmetic exception. So whenever whenever array index out of bound has raised, this particular catch block will be going to execute and it won't look after for the second one. Whenever arithmetic exception has raised, it will verify the first catch block. It sees that it was not the matching one, and it will go and verify the next level, which is exception object. You shouldn't place one more catch handler to handle at this level. You shouldn't say that I'm also handling arithmetic exception, but it was followed by exception object. The thumb rule is subclass object for cache handler, it should come first or preceded by the superclass object. The reason for that is Java follows in the order and it will verify the exception object, and if it finds the matching one, either it can be the same object or it can be superclass reference. So currently you can see that this is superclass reference which can hold all the subclass objects. So that means it can also hold arithmetic exception object. So Java compiler knows that, hey, you are already handling the arithmetic exception by using superclass reference. Why are you trying to handle again at the lower level? If you want to handle, you can specify at the top level so that it follows the hierarchy and the handler will be identified by the order. And the reason why we are handling separately instead of handling the exception object is by handling array index out of bound, you are pretty sure that you will be going to get array index out of bound and you can perform different operations. By using this, you can write some other information, like you can inform to the client. You can inform to the client that, hey, you are passing the data which is out of bound. You are pretty sure about those cases, even for divide by zero also. But why we are handling exception object? If at all, if in case we got some other errors which are not related to array index out of bound or arithmetic exception, you don't want to terminate your program and you want to continue the rest of the program by handling the exception. That's the reason you are catching the whole exception by using the least preferenced exception superclass. Give me a second, please. Sorry.
Yes?
Yeah, Vijay, go ahead.
So it is almost like in the switch statement, in the switch block, we have this default, right? This is to that.
Oh yeah, you can think like that, but here you are explicitly supposed to specify the superclass reference. You don't have any default cases, default catch blocks.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, the next keyword, which is throw clause. The purpose of throw clause is to throw an exception manually from your method code. Let us take one example to explain this scenario. If you guys remember, during the private and public key discussion, I have mentioned about for our box class, if the client passes the data as The client was supposed to pass the data for width, depth, and height. If he passes the data for any of the parameters as less than 0, we are supposed to inform to the client that you are not supposed to pass the data as less than 0. So that means in this case also you need to send, or let us say client has created an object box1 equal to new box of 10, 20, 0. So the client is trying to create a box object with the dimension 0, which is not a valid one. So from your constructor, normally the constructor purpose is to initialize the object information, which is nothing but, let us say this is height information. He is trying to send the value as 0, which is not a valid one. So from your constructor, you can just verify if height variable, if this dot height variable is less than 0, sysout value, height value is less than 0. The problem with this approach is, with your constructor, you are just printing some information to the console. Console nothing but this is on our side, not at the client side. See, this constructor information, this was available at the box class level, but not at box client level. If you print this message, the client won't be able to see what is the error message or what is the error that he was supposed to rectify. He will simply go and call, once after creating the object, he will simply go and call calculate volume method, and he will get the result as 0 now. Volume equal to 0. He will get the value as 0. So we are not supposed to allow to call the calculate volume method, if at all, if the validation has failed. So that means you can handle the exception, no issues. At your level, you can handle the exception, but that is not our criteria right now. We are supposed to inform to the client, which is nothing but you are supposed to manually throw the exception back to the caller. Caller is, in our case, box client. So with respect to your code, if you want to send an exception back to the caller method, see currently, if you are not handling the exception, within your main method, there is a default handler which will be going to handle the exception. With respect to our box client also, the same case. If this guy is trying to send some information, let us say he's setting the depth value, height value, width value, and he's trying to call the calculate volume method. Let us go and execute this once. And volume of the box, we are able to retrieve it properly. Let us change the value to 0. Volume of the box is 0 because multiplication with respect to 0, it will evolve to 0 only. But once he has set the value, when he is trying to set the value to 0, we are not supposed to allow him to set the value to 0. So that means from our box client, just give me a second, please. So when we are trying to set the value for depth, so we are calling setDepth method. Go to our setDepth method. If this dot depth is less than 0, depth value is less than 0. We can easily verify this particular case. We can just specify that value is less than 0 and the client is passing the data as less than 0.
Fish?
Yeah.
This Vijay, why should it not depth? The depth is fine, right?
Sorry?
Here, why do we need this dot?
Yeah, you can go for. Oh, here you are specifying about the parameter. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Now go and execute the file. SetDepth method. Depth value is less than 0. Did I place something wrong?
The value you gave is it 0 or less than 0?
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. So here you can see that the message is printing depth value is less than 0. So think about client and server communication way. Here you can see that the client code, box client code. Here you are sending the data as 0, and on the server side you can think like it is printing the depth value is less than 0. But the client won't be able to understand that he is getting this particular error on the server side. So that means you are supposed to explicitly inform to the client that he is setting the value as less than 0. That will be done by using a keyword called throw. Throw keyword, which is used to throw an exception manually. The syntax for that is throw exception object. This is the syntax. Exception object. Either you can construct the exception object by using new operator, because all are classes only. So that means, let us say you want to throw some arithmetic exception. And remember, each and every exception consists of two constructors. You can see in the exception class itself. First one is default constructor, and the second one is accepting a string value. So that means you can specify the message. Message means just like how you got divide by 0 or error index out of bound index value. Here you can specify that depth value shouldn't be less than 0. You can construct like this and you can send an exception back to the caller. Whenever the throw statement has reached within your code, let us say here you are throwing throw new, I'm sending only the top level. As of now, depth value shouldn't be less than 0. Sorry. When you're throwing this exception, let us change this one. When you are throwing this exception, let us say the execution started at this level. and the first statement has executed, and Java is trying to execute the next layer, which is throw new arithmetic exception statement. When it has encountered the throw statement, it won't continue executing the rest of the statements, and it will transfer the control back to the caller immediately. So currently the caller for set depth is box client itself. This is the caller now. Whenever an exception has raised, so currently at this level, let us assume that the client is passing the value as depth less than 0, and this statement is trying to execute it by the JVM now. When the control has transferred back to the caller, so currently the control is at this level, Java will try to verify, is there any matching catch handler available? Currently you can see that the main method, you don't have any handler, which means the stack will be unwounded, and the handler, which is provided by JVM, which is nothing but our default handler, will be going to execute it, and it will be going to stop or terminate the whole program. See here, you can write try catch blocks. You are throwing an exception. Let us write the try catch block. Try catch exception of E sysout exception occurred plus E. You can write try catch block and you can handle the exception at the server level itself, but that is not our intention right now. Our intention is we want the client to understand the issue, and we want the client to rectify and pass the data properly. Let us go and execute with this case first. What happened? When he's trying to set the value to 0, the execution has started, and it sees that, let us write here also one more statement. Depth value setting completed. Let me execute one more time. Go to set depth method, and the flow will start at this level. Depth value is less than 0 now. You can see that it has printed, and you are trying to throw an exception. You are constructing an exception object, and you are trying to throw this particular exception. When you have raised this exception, it sees that there is a matching catch handler available at this level. Remember, it follows the same scenario which it has used for nested try catch block also. It will find a matching catch block. In this case, you have the matching catch block, and you can see that exception occurred, which is java.lang.arithmetic exception, and it has printed the message whatever that you have constructed with respect to your constructor object. Yeah, I'll be going to show that. So when it has reached, let us say.
Krish, one second, Krish. Krish, when you have mentioned that throw new arithmetic exception, so you are creating an object.
Exception object. Correct.
Exception object of arithmetic exception. And then you are using superclass reference to subclass by catching an exception object?
Yes, correct.
Can we not give arithmetic exception in the place of exception?
You can, no issues.
Okay, thank you, Krish.
Yeah. So once it has received the exception here, you can see that the rest of the flow will continue as it is, and the volume of the box, which means the box client code, has executed, and it has printed the remaining statements. But here, we are not at all interested to catch the exception at this level. We want the client to know about the issue. So that means we don't want to catch the exception here at this level. Even if you have catched the exception, if you got the exception here at this level, you can still throw the exception again within your catch handler. Let us change this to arithmetic exception. We'll discuss about why we are getting the error once after completing this case. Now, here you are trying to handle the exception, but with respect to your handler, you are not going to do anything because you know that this is the issue with respect to client. So he was supposed to handle the exception, but not you. Either you can directly throw the exception back to the caller, or else you can handle the exception in such a way that you just want to know what kind of exception that your code is getting. See, on your logs or on your console, you just want to see what kind of exception that my code is raising. Either you can follow this approach and directly send this to client, or else you
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.